And let's get back out to Hadley Gamble, who's been in Lebanon for the best part of the week, looking at the situation, and of course fortuitous timing that you're there, of course, when we got this announcement overnight. Hi, Hadley.
Hey, Maddie, that's absolutely right. But a lot of questions actually about what this will mean for the formation of another government, because essentially they have to now nominate a new prime minister designate to pull it all together. And as we've seen, not just this year, but in years past, when it comes to forming a government, Lebanon does have some serious issues. Now, one of the big things, of course, that everybody is talking about here is getting justice for the victims of the Beirut blast. We're talking, of course, about that man-made disaster that took place just behind me, made billions and billions of dollars worth of damage for this capital city. Over 200 people died and thousands were injured, and yet no one has been held accountable. I had the chance yesterday evening to speak to the family of one of those victims, Alexandra. She was just 3 years old. She died in the blast that day, and I asked her parents if they were seeking justice and if they believed that justice could be found in Lebanon. I also asked them this: what happens next in this country? Do you believe that this is a country that can form a government that can actually not only find justice for your family and the families of others, but at the same point bring the country out of this economic crisis? Listen in.
I honestly believe in protests. I think that Lebanese people should, there's a big part of the Lebanese people that woke up, let's say, but you have a big part that is still sleeping, still following these criminals, and still hoping for, for something to happen. It will not happen. They are criminals, they are corrupted, but it's mainly they fail at everything they do, everything, economically, environmentally, health-wise, security-wise, rights-wise. They fail at everything. It's impossible for them to work on making Lebanon a better place. They don't know how to do it. They're not qualified for this. People should wake up, people should realize that these guys are big failures. They don't know how to lead the country. That's not their thing. Their thing is, and you can go back to in history, they are really serial killers. You have people that, a lot of them that killed a lot of people, that, led wars, etc. They're not here to make this country a better country. So I think there are some people that should lead protests, There are a few people that should think. We need, intelligent people to make this work. We need people to unify from Beirut, from the diaspora, from Lebanon, from the outside Lebanon, to, be unified all together and to think, to put a plan, to put a strategy, to be able to win future elections, to be able to work on making things better, because they don't know how to do it. They will not do it. They don't care.
See, as you can hear there, Maddie, just a lot of anger at the government and frankly disillusion with the fact that anything will move forward or get done with the current political class. You also heard Saad Hariri following that resignation as prime minister designate, essentially calling for an international investigation into what happened at the port, essentially admitting that he didn't believe that justice could be found within the current construct of this political class. I want to bring in now our guest, Hiba DANDACHLI. She is an activist and she's working very, very hard to move the dial forward. Hiba, when you think about this with regards to finding justice in Lebanon, is it possible in your view?
Unfortunately, we've come to a point where we found that the system around us has fallen completely. I mean, it has been failing to reach even the least of the Lebanese aspirations and expectations for the past couple of years. And the judiciary system is not but a part of that whole system, And when we had just recently a glimpse of hope, I mean, we were promised a 5-day investigation, and until today, each day for us is an August 4. We're not just waiting for the culmination to this, 1-year memorial. For us, it's every day. And when we had that little glimpse of hope where Judge Bitar summoned or wanted to get the approval to summon people who were involved apparently. And then Fahmy vetoes that.
The Interior Minister.
That takes us back a bit.
So basically, the government itself is refusing to hold anyone accountable.
Exactly.
They're allowing for an immunity, essentially, for everyone that supposedly was
100%.
involved.
And when you're in a place where you find these people worried and scared to go under investigation, you're not scared if you haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
And that only proves the truth, that the government killed us, our people.
Yeah. Do you believe that there will be any kind of accountability for the political class at this point? And we're talking about as a whole.
There is no way but to get accountability.
Yeah, and that's
There
why
is
people
no
keep going
way.
to the streets.
Exactly. It's not only about the streets. I mean, let me tell you something. We are at a place where there was systematic impoverishment of the Lebanese people for the past year and a half, just so they can make them slaves again to the dollar once the elections are here. We have a whole corrupt system, and we have to work inside out, from syndicates, from opening the conversation about decentralization, from keeping the pressure on the ground to seek justice for August Blast, until we reach a phase where we can start seeing change. And we have in the syndicate of engineers elections, and we will if we keep pushing in the right direction. Political activism.
Right now, you've got 22,000 pounds to the U.S. dollar. I mean, you've got a currency that's beyond free fall at this point. Do you believe that the international community has a role to play? We saw last year President Macron coming here. There was some momentum behind him, but at the end of the day, nothing moved forward. Now we're talking about the potential for EU sanctions on individuals, but it still seems that's a long way off.
That's a long process. I mean, we have to understand that at this point, there is no way out but with a transitional independent government that takes care of the very hard decisions that we understand are very harsh. That's why they've been, giving the ball to each other so they don't go through these harsh steps. But this is the only way into, just a bit of change coming out of this crisis. This transitional period is important. But the solution is not only within this period. The solution has to be long-term. It has to be planned out, going from elections, moving forward to the next phase.
Do you think that the street would be amenable to taking an even greater haircut when it comes to a potential IMF bailout or something to do with the World Bank? That, of course, would require serious financial reform in this country. And the political class doesn't seem willing to do that. Does the street want that, in your view?
I mean, unfortunately, they have brought us to a point where the street is demanding the basic of need, which is justice today at this point. And you've seen the brutality of the confrontations that happened in front of Fahmy's house.
The Interior Minister.
So, see what I'm...
Where the families of victims were beaten.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they claim that that the families of victims were peaceful, and then external parties came in and caused. We have anger and we have rage and we have demands for justice. I think this is the core of what we have to do.
Hiba, thanks so much for joining us. Matt, as you can hear, problems not going away, and it seems as if the street is going to continue to be as active as possible going forward. So a lot happening here in the days ahead of that anniversary of August 4th with the explosion that happened just behind me. Maddie?
Yeah, you know what, Hadley, you travel to Lebanon frequently. What is the situation like there now compared to perhaps a year ago? Just how desperate, maybe paint a picture for us, how desperate are people at the moment given everything that's transpiring?
Maddie, I can only say that it's been deteriorating before my very eyes, even in the week that I've been here. But I will say that there is a feeling of growing momentum behind the protest movement, behind the folks who are deeply angry about what they consider their government has done to them, and especially for the fact that justice has not yet been achieved for the victims of that August 4th explosion. So a lot of questions about how this is going to move forward in the coming weeks, but no doubt about it, the anger is here, the political activism is here, and people are demanding their basic rights.